Well, hey, so here we are again.
We are at Noah's Ark, and it is a fabulous thing. It's 557 feet long, something like that.
We are north of Lexington, Kentucky.
Yeah.
So we're only here for the day. We just went to the Creation Museum.
Which was fabulous. Genesis, which that ark landed on Mount Ararat in Turkey. There are traces of it, they say, but the Turkish government won't let any archaeologists go in to examine any closer. But it's a Bible come to life. And I am so glad that somebody has taken the initiative and has evidently gathered the money, because that baby cost. So that wonderful people that are interested in biblical history can come and see for themselves this wonderful building.
Here we are in Asheville, North Carolina, and we came here to mainly see Biltmore.
It was built originally just to get out of the city and get some fresh air. This is a vast estate. I believe it's 8,000 acres.
We have our sweet tea.
Southern special.
Yes, it is. Freshly brewed, and we're in the carriage house.
We take a sip first.
Beautiful. Okay, so we just went through the...
Glad I didn't choke to death on that.
We just went through the tour.
Cornelius Vanderbilt's family immigrated to the United States from Holland in 1650, and they settled in Staten Island, and that's where Cornelius was raised. When he was 16 years old, he borrowed $100 from his mother, started a ferry service to bring vegetables that were grown in Staten Island to New York. He had obviously a great business mind. It progressed into a shipping company. And from there, the shipping company progressed into railroads, and he started buying railroads. And that's where the big money came in for his family. His grandson, George Washington Cornelius,
George Washington Vanderbilt II.
Yeah. His grandson, George Washington Vanderbilt III. Okay, one more time. His grandson, George Washington Vanderbilt II, built this wonderful, gorgeous place in 1895. When it was built and he came in to live, he was a bachelor, but within a very short time he married a young woman, Edith. She was 25 and he was 36. So it became a family home, especially when they had their first child. They loved to entertain. They had people from all over the world, all over the United States. As the state, they had important people all the time.
In the 1930s, during the Depression, they opened this up for tourists because the city of Asheville wanted to stimulate the economy. In the 1950s, they started renovating it all the way up until the 1990s and 2000s.
After Pearl Harbor, the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. contacted Edith Vanderbilt and asked if they might bring some of the most important pieces here for safekeeping. So they brought portraits and paintings and statues and all sorts of treasures that they had with armed guards. So they stored all of these national treasures in the music room. It was curtained, so nobody knew what was behind there. The breakfast room, a small little room, and compared to the big banquet hall, had two Renoirs, smaller portraits of two young women that at that time, he was just an up-and-coming artist. And the Vanderbilts evidently decided he was worth having because they were collectors of everything. Frederick Olmsted was one of the greatest landscape designers the United States has ever seen. He did Central Park. I mean, he was all over doing important projects in the U.S. And this was his last one, and at Biltmore Estate.
Yeah, we're right in the middle of the Smoky Mountains. Mm-hmm. And the Great Smoky Mountain National Park is not too far from here. We're actually going there tomorrow, heading back that way. Mm-hmm. And that's the most visited national park in the entire country.
Who knew that?
And this year, the national parks are breaking record attendances of all time.
A wonderful part of our country, people. If you have a chance, you should come
and
down this way, y'all.
So nice.
Yeah.
Such Southern hospitality.
Mm-hmm. This is the Folk Art Museum of Asheville. The museum was started by Frances Goodrich. She was a Yale graduate. Of course, this was in the Appalachian Mountains. When Frances Goodrich came to this area, she found that many of the women whose ancestors came from Scotland and Ireland had forgotten the crafts that their people had brought over years before that. She and some colleagues decided they would teach these women some of the old crafts, and they did. They also decided to teach them crafts from the colonial days, which they knew they would be sellers. People would want them. So it would be the old types of cotton work and straw work and brooms and all that type of thing from the colonial times too. But also these women around here then learned probably the embroideries and maybe a little bit more fancy work from the UK. There are people that came from there. This woman really helped this whole area out, because if the women that were doing the handicrafts earned a bit of money, that helped them immensely. But this was the Southern Highland Craft Guild. Over 70 years, the guild represents now 800 craftspeople in 293 counties of 9 southeastern states. Look at that. It's a beautiful, beautiful retail shop for all of these.
Blue Ridge Parkway, what do you know about it, Mom?
President Roosevelt, he'd gone to another area where they had a parkway connecting some national parks, and he thought it was a good idea. So it was built by individual contractors, but also a lot of work was done by the WPA and the CCC.
It was to give jobs to people out of work during the Depression, and a lot of parks were started during that time, and a lot of campgrounds in the country.
Even in my small town, the WPA was there building walls around a park and making a park. So they were everywhere. There was a lot of men.
And the swimming pool, right?
Yeah, and a lot of men from the United States were out of work and almost destitute. Joined it. They were away from their families for quite long periods of time, but they were sending money home. So I got a lot of families through the Depression. Oh, they're gorgeous.
This is the Smoky Mountains, part of the Blue Ridge Mountains, part of the Appalachian Mountains that goes from Georgia to Maine.
Just a haze in the mountains that gives this look of blue. And that's the same with the smoky. It looks smoky. I love it here. I love it. I could sit here and just listen to that music, the sound of rushing water for hours. It's just an incredible place.
Here we are at Dollywood's Great Stampede. It's going to be quite a show.
Reminds me of in Las Vegas and different things we've done over the years, but particularly Las Vegas. It's a dinner show.
Dinner show
It's
with
a dinner show.
Entertainment.
Yeah, horses, animals. You can smell it in the air.
Mm-hmm. We are wearing the same shirt practically. We're at the Belle Meade Plantation in Tennessee. It's in southwestern Nashville metropolitan area.
In 1807, John Harding bought land here. John's son, William, he was pro-South, pro-Confederate.
First of all, he fundraised a lot of money. Like in today's equivalent, it would be $1 million some from local farm owners. And they gave the money to the Confederate Army, but then he got caught, and then he went to trial, and he ended up in prison up in Michigan for 6 months.
But he quickly decided he didn't like the cold up there, so he managed to raise $20,000 then to post bail so he could get out of there. And they let him. He paid the bond of $20,000. He pledged allegiance to the United States. And
to the Union.
To the Union.
And then he was under house arrest for the duration of the Civil War here.
With 2 armed guards in the house. And after that was all said and done, after the Civil War was done, he had an interest in horses. There had always been horses. But he bought a horse, and the name of that horse was Bonnie Scotland. He had many other horses, but this was a special one, Bonnie Scotland. William Harding bought him in about the early 1800s. And he sired almost all of the Kentucky Derby winners.
From Seabiscuit to Secretariat to who else?
Do it just a huge, long line of winners.
Yeah. Ones that you would recognize.
Some in Europe, even. Like many affluent families, their descendants seem to lose the money one way or the other through many different
Overspending.
gambling, whatever. One of the gals, her husband had died, and they were so far in debt, and she had a 2.5-year-old son that was bequeathed Belle Meade, but of course he was too young and the debts were too high, so she
$90,000 back then.
She sold everything: the furnishings, the house, the land, the horses, the
Carpet.
Ripped the carpet off the floors but she got herself out of debt. Thing is, everything she sold, she wrote down the family it was sold to and the address. So when they got to the point where they were going to restore the Belle Meade home, they could call these people and see if they still had them. And I would imagine either the people would donate it, they would be paid for it. So what a smart woman. It's a beautiful magnolia tree. Beautiful specimen. Oh, it smells so good.
Here we are at the Country Music Hall of Fame, downtown Nashville, and oh man, if you ever can come here, this is really worth it because you get to learn the history from the very beginning to what it is now. We just watched a montage of all the country music performers in that little theater in there, and it's amazing how much we have listened to all of our lives.
Yeah, I thought I didn't know much about country music, and then there's a huge wall of prints and posters of the singers. And I think I know all of them, so somehow I was introduced to a lot of this over the years.
From TV to the radio to
I think
just
that was
everything. Yeah.
I think it was probably about 1958. I was 8 and Mick was 6. Mom had bought us black cowboy suits and holsters and the hats and everything. And Roy Rogers came to Rochester and Trigger with Trigger his horse and had a show. Came out on the stage and he sang and Trigger did tricks, and Mick and I were in the audience just eating it all up. Also, these cowboy shows mean Campbell's tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwiches to me because we sat in front of the TV and watched them at 12 o'clock on Saturdays.
Mom would like to explain why there is a Parthenon in Nashville.
Exposition. And now you got me so scared to say that word.
We just can't say that word. Exhibition, exposition.
Exposition.
Exposition. Here we go. World's Fair Exposition.
Well, it doesn't ever say that. Where'd you see
I
that?
saw it somewhere.
Okay.
We're Googling.
It was built also, it was for... Let me start one more time.
Okay, I get this out. Go ahead.
Okay, ready? This Parthenon was built in Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, as a celebration for Tennessee's centennial in 1897, and also for a World's Exposition. And it was built an exact replica of the one in Greece.
Today, earlier, we took a tour from the Country Music Hall of Fame over here, and we learned a lot about it, but the tour was extremely fast. Couldn't record inside, and so we just ate nearby, and we're like, Music Row is right here, plus our hotel is not far away. So we thought we would just stop by and share some knowledge that we learned from our tour, and this is one of 7 music recording studios on Music Row.
Elvis came, he was in the Army at that time, and he was on leave. But he came to Studio B, and he recorded 4 songs, and he had to go back to the Army. But within a very short time, they were all number 1. They ended up to be either gold or platinum. sold millions of records, just these four
Yeah.
that he cut here.
Yeah, and I'll insert the pictures of the piano that he played and where he recorded. And Dolly Parton.
Well, Dolly Parton did a lot of her recording here too. I'll Always Love You, Whitney Houston's hit, of course, was written by Dolly Parton, and 3 times she recorded this song. Whitney Houston's producer asked Dolly if she could use that song, I'll Always Love You, for the movie that Whitney was making. And Dolly said yes, because she was very generous. Another recording of Dolly's is Jolene, which is, I think, probably her biggest hit.
Over 100 artists recorded over 1,000 hit songs on the radio between the 1950s and 1970s. It's still used today by different recording artists. But on this whole music row of the 7 recording studios, who has and still does record here?
Ray Orbison, some of the Beatles members, Miley Cyrus, Taylor Swift, Bob Dylan, Dolly Parton, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Robert Plant, Reba, Elvis, Garth Brooks, Patsy Cline, Simon and Garfunkel, and Eric Clapton. And that's just a drop in the bucket of how many.
Yeah, just a very, very small amount.
Our tour guide said that this is called Music Row, probably the most important street as far as music is concerned in the world. Because it has put out so much music.
Not just country, but
Right.
pop, rock, and
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
Here we are at the beautiful Belmont University, a prestigious university in Nashville. And right next to us is actually Vanderbilt University, which is another prestigious university. So who knew?
Who knew?
Beautiful.
It was a dilapidated plantation called Belmonte, and 2 women evidently bought it and
In the late 1800s.
turned it into a Christian university. This is the most beautiful place I think I've ever seen. Buildings on the street side are white marble. Inside the huge courtyard here are many, many, many huge buildings, and they're red brick. And it's an incredible place.
And the gal at the gift shop at the Country Music Hall of Fame, we were asking her a couple more things we should do today because we're heading out tomorrow to go north, go home. And she said, if you are near the Belmont University, please go through that campus. And we're glad we did. We also learned from one of the tour guides today that Nashville is known for not country music as the number 1, but insurance. Insurance companies are here as number 1. Number 2 is hospitals. As a matter of fact, one of the gals in the lobby this morning, she was from Nashville. She's living in Italy. They needed to come back for some medical help. They've been here for a month, and I guess there's a really, really good hospital network here that rivals the Mayo Clinic up in Minnesota. And the music industry and the tourism that it brings in, and there's a 4th thing and we just forgot. So that's the way it is.
I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, we're doing our best.
Because we have learned a lot. Let me tell you, we're going to miss this southern part of our country. We have discovered so many things on our journey, met so many people, and seen so many beautiful things.
Half of the United States is here in the whole South. This last week and a half, it has been packed with people, packed with tourists. It's a beautiful part of our country. We've fallen in love with it, and it just makes us want to come back and see more of it.
Which we hope to do
Yeah.
in the near future. Hope you enjoyed some of the things we've shown you. And
So we are off tomorrow, and until next time, if there is, I hope there might be, if we travel, if we do stuff. Until next time,
bye-bye.
see you later.
Yeah.
All right, bye.